Do you think blood is thicker than water?
No, I don't. I don't really like that saying very much. Because I was kind of raised on the whole, like, oh, well, they're your family, and so you have to always love them, and you always have to, like, accept. And I don't know. I don't like that because I don't tolerate disrespect from anybody.
Yeah.
And if I feel like there's somebody in my life who makes me uncomfortable or make my life better, then it's not really worth for me to have them in my life regardless of their relation to me. Like, I can still love my family from a distance, but I'm not going to sit there and allow disrespect in my daily life. So, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, I hate you, you suck, die, you know? And I'm not going to invite you to my house every day. I'm not going to talk to you every day. I'm just going to be like, yeah, well, that's my family, but we don't talk.
Yeah, it's just, like, establishing those healthy boundaries. And, like, where we kind of grew up, and maybe you agree or disagree, but where we grew up, like you said, you always love your family no matter what. And, like, you know, in my case, it's a little bit of a different story. But for most people, like, they don't establish boundaries with their family, and they're just like, well, that's my brother, that's my dad, or whatever. But, like, you need to respect yourself before you can even pursue anything further in life, and that starts with your own personal life and family. Well, for me, I ended up cutting off all my family due to just some interpersonal problems, but not everyone can do that or is comfortable doing that. Yeah. So that being said, I'm the type of person that I don't believe in that statement at all. Even when I was still talking to my family, I still didn't believe it because they didn't respect my boundaries. It was nothing healthy about the relationships. And even when I tried to establish my boundaries, then they ended up freaking out on me. You know what I mean? So it's just like...
I'm still your mother.
Yeah, right. Like, how many times I've heard that? Like, you would be nothing without me.
Well, I didn't choose to be here. You know?
Right? Yeah, you're the one who made me, so, like, let's get that straight. But, like, do you have any examples of, like, those kind of boundaries you set with your family, or just even friendships even?
Yeah, when my mom died, I was like 10 years old, and after that, like, my siblings and me, we went to go live with our dad, and our dad was not a very, he was not in a position to be a father, especially on such short notice, and so, like, with my dad, he always struggled with, you know, drugs and alcohol, and, you know, just addiction as a whole, and so, like, growing up with him was really hard on me mentally and emotionally. And so as I got older and I kind of realized, like, you know, because when you become an adult, you kind of see what you didn't see as a child. You can see the
outside perspective looking in now.
Yeah, and so I was kind of like, I don't really want a life, like, with him in it anymore, just because he caused so much trauma in my life.
Well, we got to protect our peace. The world is so crazy, like, you have to at this point.
Yeah, well, and my siblings, they're kind of different because they're in that mindset of, well, like, he's our last living parent, and so, like, we have to keep him around, and I'm like, well, you don't have to.
You don't have to do nothing. Just let you guys know. We don't have to do nothing ever.
I was like, well, I respect your decision. You know, it's your life. If you want to have him around, that's totally cool, but I'm not okay with that, and I'm not going to do that. So that I kind of, like, he was the first person in my family I really set that boundary with.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of, and even to this day, like, I don't know. I'm kind of like in and out. Like, I realize that he's my father, and I do love him. I always will. He's my father. But I don't want him at my wedding. I don't want him to meet my children. I don't want him in my life. I don't hate him. I don't want him to die. But I just don't want anything to do with him. And so, like, after that, it kind of became hard with my siblings because they were still very much a part of his life. Yeah. And it was hard for me to be around them because he was always around. And now, they're not, like, as involved with him as they used to be, so it's a little bit easier to kind of be, you know, and me and my siblings, we've had, like, back and forth relationships all our lives, and but no, I mean, I love my family very much, but my dad's side specifically, I had to set those hard boundaries with, because they're very, like, oh, I'm your mother, I'm your father, I'm your aunt, and
it doesn't work that way, because, like, end of the day, for me, like, I tried, you know, I ended up going to all contact with most of my family. If you know me personally, you know that already, right? But that being said, I'm just, like, that type of person where I tried to get a relationship back with my sisters and stuff like that, but it didn't work out because they still had the same mindset like your siblings do of like, well, it's your mother, it's your father, you need to respect them. Like, honestly,
I don't need to do shit.
I don't need to do shit. I can do whatever I want, and I'm going to be unapologetic about it.
That's my life.
Yeah, like, I'm going to just love my wife, love my animals, and take it from there, because end of the day, it's about me, and if I can't protect myself, how am I going to protect my wife? How am I going to protect, like, future children? Because whenever I have kids, I want them to, like, if I'm in the wrong, because everyone can be wrong or right, if I'm in the wrong, I want them to call me out and question me.
Yeah.
You know?
And feel safe.
Yeah, and feel safe doing so.
If I try to correct my parents, I get my ass beat.
Yeah, right? Like, it was like, whenever I did it with mine, it was constant guilt tripping or manipulation. So I'm that type of person. Like, when I have kids, I want them to correct me. And, you know, or even with you or my wife, like, everyone gets out of line. You have to be open to that more or less criticism.
Yeah, the constructive criticism.
Yeah, like, obviously you don't want to be, like, bashful towards me, but, like, I mean
I do.
You might.
I do.
I mean, you tell me to fuck off every 2 seconds. But that being said, I just want that respect to be gone both ways, and I tried so many times with all my family, and it just was never that way with them, you know?
Yeah, well, and it kind of goes where, like, for us, I feel like we're very, like, emotionally mature, and so we kind of realize when we're wrong, and we're like, oh, well, I messed that up, or I did this. But then, like, a lot of other people in our families, or like my family specifically, they have a really hard time admitting when they're wrong.
Same with mine, to a T.
Yeah,
let me tell
so
you.
It's like, I can't call you out because I'm not going to be like, oh, well, you and this and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, I know I did this, but, like, you need to be accountable too.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Right, and that's kind of where those boundaries
takes two to tango.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, it's kind of hard to set boundaries with people who are not emotionally mature and who can't or won't admit when they're wrong. So, like, for me, I've had to distance myself from a lot of my family for that reason specifically, because some people just never think they're wrong. They're always pointing fingers at you because it's humiliating when you mess up. I know that. It's hard to take accountability. Yeah. But it's all part of being an adult. If you want to be in my life, you have to be accountable. You have to, you know, I don't know. Like, a lot of people struggle with that. Yeah. That's why I'm in therapy.
Therapy helps.
Therapy's good.
Just saying, therapy helps. But I'm just saying, like when I was growing up, it was one of those things you don't ever question adults ever. No. And I feel like that made such, like, as a kid, I was like, well, why not? Why can't we question other people? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, people just need to realize it just goes back to accountability and making sure you are being humble and true to yourself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in my family don't do that. Like, there was so much trauma and stuff like that growing up. And when I would try to talk about it, they're like, well, that didn't happen. Or
it didn't happen the way you say it.
Yeah, exactly, right? And they, like, twist it around. I'm like, no, like, this is what I remember. And, like, let's say even if I'm remembering it wrong, that's what my experience was.
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of having this open conversation, people are just so quick to point fingers. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't even matter, like, just with family. It can happen with friends, too. Or just, like, people, like, you're talking to. Is that everyone always has a point, well, I want to be right, you want to be right, you want to be right. Mm-hmm. And I get to a point where I'm just like, I don't want to have a round and round conversation about the same thing, different formats. So I'm just like, I'm done.
Because it's like, are we solving the problem or are we just dragging it? Like, you're kicking the can down the road, or are we going to address the elephant?
I'm just like, if we're not going to address it, then I'm out of this conversation because it is not worth my time. My time is valuable no matter what I'm doing, if it's sleeping, protecting my peace, standing up for myself. So I just want to be like, listen, we can have this conversation or not. If it's not going to go anywhere, then I'm done. Yeah. There's no point.
Like, I'm not going to keep trying with you if it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. And half the time, no one in my family will, or all the time, no one in my family respects my boundaries, you know?
Yeah. And then, like, when you speak out on it, then they're like, oh, well, you're the one twisting it now. Because it's like, oh, well, I'm embarrassed because I'm being called out. But it's like, you don't have to be called out if you just talk. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, and especially with people that owe you apologies. I have experience with that a lot. When people owe you an apology, that's when they treat you the worst.
Yeah. Was there, like, I can come up with a few in my head, but I kind of want to know, because I don't think I've ever actually even heard you answer this before. For, like, family and friends, is there any, like, red flags you look out for? Like, where, like, for example, you're meeting a new friend, or you've had a friend for a long time. Is there, like, red flags or behaviors or boundaries you're, like, not going to do? Stop it right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you asked that because I actually at this point in my life have friendship trauma from my ex-best friend. So like I really struggle to have the desire to make new friends.
Right.
But if I were, I would definitely look out for like possessiveness. If you have a friend that's like, oh, you gotta be my friend and nobody else's.
Yeah.
And like I know that I joke about that with you, like, no, you're my best friend, you're not anybody else's.
Yeah.
But it's like literal possession.
There's a difference.
Yeah,
There's a
where they're
fine
like,
line.
you're not allowed to hang out. Like, why are you going out with this person? Why are you hanging out by yourself? Or you spend too much time with your partner.
Listen,
or,
like,
you know,
I
like,
want to tell those kind of people, I'm not married to you.
Right, it's like hello.
Yeah, like, I'm married to my wife. Like, you and I, there's a boundary. We, like, you know.
You're like, no, my wife is my best friend. Fuck you.
Yeah, no,
you know?
Seriously.
But, like, as adults, you kind of realize, like, when you have really possessive friends like that, then that's a huge red flag. Because if they can't accept that, I would rather be at home with my fiance. Yeah. You know, he's on his game and I'm watching my show. Like, that's the best
vibing,
day. You know?
Yeah,
I love that. But, like, my ex-best friend, like, she like, hated when I spent time with my partner and when I spent time with other friends. And so she would,
that's a little crazy, not gonna lie.
she would track my location 24/7. She would want to hang out 24/7. Like, we used to live together, so she would want me down in her room all the time. Like, literally everything she did, she wanted me there. There was a time when I was talking to somebody. I had been freshly out of a 2-year relationship.
Sure.
And I was talking to somebody, or not freshly, but like, I was
I
was out of it long enough, and I was kind of like talking to somebody.
Yeah, you're ready to get back out there.
Yeah, and so there was somebody I met at work that I was like really into, and you know, things were going well between me and them, and she hated that, and she like ruined that for me. She went and told the person that I was talking to that I went and slept with my ex while him and I were like talking or whatever, and then he ended up like ending.
Really?
Yeah, and so that really...
That's insane. Because,
that's a new level of possession where you're, like, ruining relationships.
Do you think, like, it crossed, like, a boundary from, like, friendship to something else with this ex-best
definitely.
friend?
I have this friend who was also really good friends with her.
Yeah.
And him and his husband. They were, like, friends because they were roommates. His husband is really into, like, reading tarot, which is awesome. Like, I find that shit so cool. Like, I would love to get a reading.
Is that, like, the ones where, like, it tells you your future? More
like,
or less?
spiritual readings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's pretty... I don't know if he still is, but at the time, he was very into tarot card reading. Sure. And he had, like, these... I don't know if you've seen, like, those rods, like, those spiritual rods.
Where, like, you ask a question and it goes a certain way.
So he had those, too. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, we'll like, practice your skills and, you know, because he wanted to practice. And so we were sitting in the room. I think it was his room at the time. And he was like reading cards and whatnot, and I was single at the time, and so he was like, "Oh, I see somebody in your future." I don't remember all the details, but she was sitting there, and when we were talking about like the future partner type thing, she was asking the spirit per se, like, "Oh, like is her next partner going to be a woman?" And the rods crossed, and it didn't happen by the way. Very happily engaged to a man. And so the rods crossed and said yes. And so my ex-best friend at the time, right after that, she said, "Is that woman?" And then she said her own name.
Yeah, so that just definitely like nailed the coffin confirms.
Right. And so like me and, you know, my friend's husband, we like looked at each other.
And we're just like...
And I was like...
You're like, so can I come move in with you and get away?
Well, they were living together. They were all roommates.
Oh, okay.
I was the only one that wasn't living there at the time. And
You're so, like, I gotta go.
Yeah, so like him and I looked at each other, and then we looked at her, and then...
You're like that Homer Simpson meme backing into the bushes away.
Like, what the fuck, bro? And like, then everything started to click for me. Because because we had another friend too who was also bisexual. And she was friends with my boyfriend at the time. Sure. And she was dating a woman, and she was always talking about, like, oh, well, like, how do women have sex? And how is bisexuality? And, like, what's it like? And just, like, asking all kinds of questions, which, if you're curious, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, be curious, do your research, ask questions, whatever. But she did it in a very, like, she took it a little too far. Like, it wasn't just curiosity, it was more like, give me the nitty-gritty details.
Like, asking too many personal things.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
And so it's like... If you want to know how women have sex, go watch porn. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like
plenty of websites and videos
right?
out
Like,
there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know how our friend felt about it at that point. But if it was me, I'd be like, that's just
too much.
A little too much. Yeah. And like.
It just goes back. Boundaries, people.
Right.
We
boundaries.
need boundaries.
Yes. Yes. If your friends are okay with discussing that, that's fine. But like, I wasn't. And that made me really uncomfortable. And like, just like always making comments about, because she knew that I was bisexual too. And so she would always like ask very like personal questions. And then like that scenario as a whole was, like you said, the nail in the coffin for me. I was like, okay, this is like crossing from friendship to like uncharted territory. This is not safe. I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. But like, there was a whole lot more to that story that I kind of like blocked out because of trauma. Yeah. Like there was, like she used to take me to like stalk her boyfriend with her because she had such bad trust issues that she would like track his location and then we'd drive all around town following him because she thought that she was being cheated on.
At that point, just break up.
Right.
You know?
And then, but she would tell me that like she would have night terrors about like me sleeping with her boyfriend, which I thought was really weird. Yeah. And like.
That's weird.
And she would have like actual like hallucinations of like me throwing eggs at her house, and she was standing there screaming at like an apparition?
Apparition,
of me, and I was like 2,000 miles away, and so like my friends that I told you about earlier, they pulled up, and she was like screaming at nothing with tears, like she was like crying and screaming, and I wasn't even there, and she was like spreading a rumor that I was throwing eggs at her house. And I was living in Tucson, Arizona at the time.
Yeah, so you're like, I'm 2,000 miles away.
Right.
And I'm doing none of that.
So, I mean, like, things like that would happen, like, with the, you know, being possessive and, like, asking inappropriate questions and making inappropriate comments and, like, spreading stories and stalking me on social media and, like, texting me from multiple numbers, which she's the reason I had to change my phone number because she wouldn't stop trying to contact me. So, like, that type of possession and obsession where they keep trying to come back into your life and it, like, causes so much trauma that I literally had to change my number and go to therapy because of her. And now I have friendship trauma where I'm not even interested in making friends anymore. So at that point I was kind of like, I don't know if I can be friends with her anymore because setting a boundary with her was very hard because she would take it like a personal attack.
And that's like, not to like, I mean, it's like full circle, right? Like our families, well, my family at least, like I would try to set a boundary like, well, I guess you hate me then.
Yeah, I guess I'm just the worst person in the whole wide world.
I'm the worst mom ever to exist. Like, it just gets insane when you try to set those boundaries and people are like, well, what the hell, you know?
And I've had friendships in the past where, like, my best friend in high school, like, we would always get the lesbian allegations. But that's just how we've known each other since we were, like, 11. You know what I mean?
My best friend, him and I would get gay allegations all the time. Yeah.
But like it's different between like, you know, when you're comfortable and you're making the jokes like that or you're like, you know, like you're close enough to where, you know, whatever, but like and then there's other times where it's just
there's a fine line of like joking and then crossing that. And when people like your ex-best friend do that kind of things, it's just so uncomfortable and you're like, I don't really know how to react because it's those first times. And it's not until recently where like I've even started myself, I don't know about you, but like where I've been like, this is my boundary, if you cross it, we're done.
Right.
And
you have to anymore. I mean, at this big age, you can't be giving people second, third, fourth chances anymore.
You get one chance. And
you're cut off. You're done.
A lot of the time. No.
So like, have you ever had an experience like that?
Thankfully, no. I've never had that kind of experience.
Maybe because me and your wife were talking earlier about it. She has a very similar story to that. So I wonder if maybe it's just like females are just like women are. Just, I shouldn't say females. That's bad. Women,
You're females,
fucking females. No, like maybe it's just like more so. Like I know men obviously will have traumatic friendships. Maybe women are just more inclined to have like those type of traumatic friendships.
Yeah, I'll say like for me, I feel like I could have handled it better. I wouldn't say like I've had like a traumatic friend experience where it became stalking, possessive, almost like they, you know, want to be in a relationship with me. Cool. It's like those movies or songs you hear about like a crazy ex, so to speak, you know. Yeah. I joke around with my wife, who's in here by the way, just watching us.
She's my wife.
Yeah, sorry. My best friend's wife, I guess.
Yeah, she's my wife, okay?
That being said, my point being is, like, I'm the type of person, like, I get a read on you the first time, and then I'll give you, like, first impression, and then after that, if you're, like, weird or whatever, I just set that boundary. I'm like, okay, you're weird, I don't like you.
Like, I can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah, because I know what I want in, like, not just, like, and when I say relationship, I mean like friendship or any sort
like any connection.
Yeah. So I know what I want out of that, and if you're not going to give that, then why am I going to just ruin myself, try to bend backwards for someone who probably won't even end up liking me at the end?
Yeah, or who won't reciprocate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm the type of person, I like the weird jokes or, like, funny stuff, and, like, if you're going to be, like, so naive to the world, then I'm going to be like, no thanks.
This ain't gonna work out.
This ain't gonna work out.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because I make too many fucked up jokes all the time for some...
If you can't get with the dark humor, you gotta hit the road.
You gotta go.
Sorry.
I'll give you your bag on your way out. Right. For me, growing up, I actually looked up stuff to, like, how to advocate for yourself. And, like, in therapy, too. I really enjoyed, like, learning those kind of things. Did you kind of, like, develop it yourself, or...
I think I'm in the process of it because I'm, like, currently in therapy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of working through all of that stuff now. I mean, it's a little late in life, but...
It's never too late to do that kind of thing, you know?
I mean, I've gone through a lot of therapists that didn't work out for me. So I guess this is the first time I've had a therapist that, like that gets me.
Has that connection.
You know, that I can connect to and, like, listens and... but yeah, I mean, I haven't really done any of like that type of work, but I've definitely looked at like if I'm on Facebook or TikTok and I'm seeing stuff that I relate to, and then it's kind of like those, you know, you work with yourself to kind of unwrap some of those like old thoughts and those old like ways of life. So, I mean, I haven't done anything like professional, but I've definitely taken a lot of time to self-reflect.
I mean, self-reflect is like so good for you. Like, I'll do a lot of self-talking of like, I'm very, I guess maybe I'm partly OCD, but I'm like very obsessive like with going over situations and like how I acted and how I can correct that behavior in the future.
You're like in the shower and you're like, I should have said this.
I should have said this. I should have said that. Judging my family. I'm like, I should have said that. That would have been so good. Or even after like an argument with someone, you're like, oh, I should have said that. That would have been so good. You're sitting in bed at 2
Why
in the
didn't
morning.
I think of this then?
Yeah, right. But that self-reflection is so key, just to healing and, like, rewiring your brain, so...
Yeah, I know for me, a lot of the times, like, if I'm in the middle of an argument with somebody, I might not, like, be accountable right away. Yeah. I know sometimes I'll kind of... Like, everybody gets a hothead sometimes.
Or just all, emotions just come out, and you're like, hey, well, fuck you, no, fuck you.
And
And then you come back, and I think the most important is coming back and, like...
realizing, like
hey,
there's been a lot of times where,
like,
if me and my fiance are in a fight, and if I'm being wrong, but I'm being stubborn... And then, like, later
I'm very sober myself.
Yeah, I'm like, I need a break from this. We'll come back later. And then I'll be like, you know what? You're right. I was
There's
this
nothing
and that, this
wrong
and that.
walking away and coming back.
Right. As long as you admit at the time that, like, okay, yeah, I did mess this up. And this was your experience and how I made you feel. Now I need to be accountable because I love you and I care about you. Then that's what's the important part. Even if you don't, I mean, you should do it right away. But you're a human. It's hard.
It's better just to walk away, cool down, and then come back to it when you're full and right.
And that's with anybody. I mean, friends, family, siblings.
Well, I tried playing 10 with my family. I'm washing my hands.
You can't be accountable for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of times with like narcissistic family members, they'll point the finger at you,
right? Because
they don't want to admit that they're wrong, and they want you to be accountable for how they treated you. And that's just ass backwards. It doesn't work like that.
I'm not here for it. I'm gonna peace out.
This is why I distance myself from a lot of family because, like, it's really tough when you try to point out something and they're like, no, well, you're remembering it wrong. No, this isn't how it went. And it's like, okay, but that's how I perceived it.
Yeah, it's my experience, so why not we talk about the experience together instead of taking it as a person?
Because they don't want to be wrong.
Yeah. People just want to be right too many times nowadays. Doesn't matter with family members, just anyone in general.
Really anybody, but I know like my siblings have gotten better about it over the years. I think we all have. I mean, it's like I said, it's just human error. Not everyone's going to be perfect right off the bat. It takes a lot of experience. It takes a lot of like me and my sister specifically. Her and I are like best friends. Don't get me wrong, but when we fight, we are like
they're like
we are like hitting heads hard, and then like a day or two, maybe a week later, we'll be like. So you want to go to the movies?
Yeah,
you want to come over and sleep over,
Coffee?
Yeah, right? But, like, that's one of those things where, like, they, over time, will start to kind of develop that, accountability within themselves. And, because, like, I had a very long FaceTime call with my sister not too long ago where I kind of laid out all of that. And I was like, look, if I'm going to reconnect with my family, and that, like, included her at the time, then here's how I feel, here's the boundary, and here's, because my family has had a lot of issues back and forth between our sibling group and partners and all that shit. So, but I think she's definitely gotten a lot better. I've gotten a lot better. That's good. Sure. Especially being in therapy. Therapy has helped me a lot with conversation.
It just makes you self-reflect so much and think about everything.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, like I've had issues with my family, but there's a lot of times where those issues had a lot to do with me too. So it's not just like, oh, you suck, you're a terrible person. Like, I know that I had work to do too. But if I'm the only one doing work, then that's a different story.
There's a reason why it's called a relationship, because it's between two people, not just
two-way street. If I'm doing self-reflection, then you got it too. If I'm setting boundaries, you got it too. Respect the boundary and I'll respect your boundary. You know what I mean? It's a two-way street. Yeah. How does setting boundaries with your family, like, how did that shape your life? And how do you think it's going to shape your future?
When I was trying to set boundaries with my family, I would be
Many times.
Many times. I can have everyone attest to it. I can pull up the screenshots. Setting the boundaries for me worked out in I didn't say outright well, if you talk about this, that offends me or it makes me upset. I was just I would tell them right away, hey, that upsets me how you're talking. I'm not going to talk in circles if we're ever having an argument. And then it would just be this very petty nitpicking.
Watch your fucking mouth.
Yeah. They would take one thing, spin it another way, and I would say something hey, that's not how I perceived it. Try to have that conversation. And they just wanted to just go down this, they wanted to beat the dead horse or whatever that saying is. I don't like that saying. It's kind of creepy, but...
Argue to argue.
Argue to argue.
Exactly.
Yeah. They would just want to argue, and I'm not here for it. I just want to say what I have to say. You say what you want to have to say, and then we're done. Mm-hmm. But it got to a point of that would just happen all the time. And
just circles.
Yeah, it would just be circles. So eventually I got to a point of I'm done. And in regards to how it's going to shape my future, it's almost helped me in a weird way of arguing with people. And people have this negative thing about arguing where well, it's bad, but it could be good.
Not really.
Yeah, you can have a healthy argument.
It's good to have disagreements.
Yeah, it's kind of helped me be more objective. Just even talk with my wife. I'm hey, you know what? That upset me. Or for example, I know a couple of days ago, I was telling my wife, hey, I'm having some really negative thoughts right now. Mm-hmm. And let's just, come back to this conversation later or whatever the case may be. So it's really helped me take an objective stand back and look at the whole picture instead of just being well, sorry, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right, fuck you. Yeah,
because for so long I was so emotional and so stubborn about, and I would be so flip-floppity where now getting older and being on medication, which helps.
And having a developed frontal lobe.
Yeah, that I guess that helps. But it's just helped. Have a lot of healthy boundaries with everyone, with my wife, even with myself, because you have to respect your own boundaries you set for yourself. Because if you hey, I don't like that, and then someone does it and you don't like it, and you're going to continue to allow that behavior to happen, you're not respecting yourself, and you're going against those boundaries, even though you have them set up.
And that's basically permission for them to keep mistreating you.
Yeah, and I'm not here for it. I get angry sometimes. I'm we're done.
You're cut off.
Goodbye. See you later. Peace out.
And it's really easy, at least for me, to set boundaries when you have somebody in your life who really has steamrolled over every single one of your boundaries and is very disrespectful. I remember you telling me a story a while ago about how your mom posted a very personal video about you and all oh, my son's got this disorder and that disorder.
She posted a TikTok talking about me. I'm sorry, I'm a little heated up now. She posted a TikTok talking about me, mentioning my
all of his personal details.
Yeah, my mental health disorder, and I was what the hell? I believe
that's not your place.
Yeah, I believe she eventually deleted it. I don't know, but
it doesn't. It's on the internet forever. It doesn't matter. Once it's posted, it's out there.
I'm sure someone saved it somewhere or whatever, and it's one of those things where I would told her hey, unfortunately, I don't want you in my life because you have done nothing but being disrespectful, right? And she still talks about all these things, still mentions all these things, and doesn't respect that boundary. And I've told her multiple times, hey, I don't want you anywhere near me. I don't want anything to do with you. Just this is a combination of trauma and being introduced to drugs and honestly neglect is a big portion to that. I'm just hey, I'm done. And then she wouldn't respect my boundaries. And then it went to my sister who was like, hey, you should love your mom. I'm like, hey, no. She's like, you should or we're done. I'm like, okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
Like, if you're not going to respect my boundary, then we're done. Yeah. Like, that goes for anyone. Like, I would expect you to do the same to me, you know? And, like, well, for example, I've made jokes and you're like, hey,
not
too
cool.
far. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, done.
And it never happened again.
Never happened again. It is literally that simple, people. Like,
it
you
really
just say, hey, I don't like that. And you're like, all right, my bad.
But that's the thing. It takes two healthy people. Because if you have one person who's emotionally, available and mature, and then you have another person who's not, and you're like, okay, well, that wasn't cool. And they're like, you're so fucking sensitive. And it's like, huh?
No, I don't like it.
What?
Stop it.
What do you mean I'm sensitive? You just told everybody that I have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, like, I don't like that.
On the World Wide Web. Like,
granted, I do tell people I'm schizophrenic to, like, freak people out.
But that wasn't her place.
Yeah, it's
and she used it to hurt you. It's a different thing to, like, advocate.
Yeah.
And then also to be like, oh, well, my son's this and that. Because she's mad that you told her you didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Yeah. For good reason. And it's like, insane. Same with, like, your sister. Because, like, I've had issues like that, too. Where they're like, oh, well, you should love your mom. But it's like, because my siblings are the same way with our father. Where it's like, you can have multiple siblings who grew up in the same house. But have completely different childhoods. Yeah. And so it's like, your experience with our father and my experience with our father is so different. So it's like, you can say, oh, well, that's your mom. You should still love her. And it's like, sure, part of me does love her. She's my mother, of course. But I don't want nothing to do with her. I don't care about her. I don't, you know what I mean? That's how I am about my dad. Right. And my siblings are like, well, that's your last living parent. You should love him. You should, use the time you had with him. But I'm like, no, like, it's different because my experience is different than yours. Yeah. And therefore my boundary is different than yours. Yeah. And I can respect your boundary because that's your life, but this is mine and I want you to respect mine.
I'm going to take control of my life no matter who says.
And they do. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
But your sister doesn't sound like she does.
No. My sisters were troublemakers for a while, so my mom focused a lot of attention on them. So I grew up very independent, being able to take care of myself in any way I can. And that's pretty much the only thing I pride myself on, is being so resilient to pretty much anything that life throws my way. Yeah. So that being said, they got all this attention, and to me, I'm like, well, like, I wanted some of that
felt
love.
Kind of neglected.
Yeah, I felt definitely neglected. To a point of, like, I even tried running away one time as a kid.
What? Really?
Yeah. As a kid, I was like, I'm running away. And I got, like, down the road. I had, my dad's, like, a military guy. So I, like, knew kind of, like, all right, I'm going to bring some water. I brought some food. And I was like, I'm going to just go.
You got the MRE?
Yeah, I got the MRE. I'm all set. So that being said, I got down the road. And then my mom was, like, so mad at me. And I was just like, I wasn't even older than 10. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm out, peace out. And she called me on my phone, and I came back. But it just goes to show, like, at a young age, I wanted that boundary. It was never there.
Yeah, like, even knowing that at such a young age is so sad.
Yeah.
You know?
So, like, I've always been resilient and always been independent, but, like, I'm like, I kind of wanted some of that love and affection, too, that I never got.
How do you think your life would be different, though, if, like, you did get a healthy, stable, parental figure?
I don't think I would have ever left where I grew up. Like, I would have stayed in that same area and honestly maybe still stayed in contact with some of my older friends and stuff like that. But now I have a lot more of a mature outlook on life compared to what I probably wouldn't have if I had that.
So you think you would have been, like, more stagnant if you...
Yeah, I don't think I would have, like, grew as independent as I did. I would have just stayed the same, wouldn't have changed whatsoever. My first job was Walmart. Honestly, I'd probably still be working there.
Well, thank God for growth then, I guess.
Yeah, and now I'm a pharmacy technician, and...
Cool. Not cool. That sounds like a really boring fucking job.
I like it. It's a fun job.
You told me you hate it.
It's only fun until he sits and tells his wife about every drug out there, and I'm sitting there still trying to put them together, and I'm like, I don't know what triptyline means.
Triptyline?
Like amitriptyline, used for, like, migraines and stuff like that, or it can be used for, like, depression.
So Tylenol?
No. Tylenol's different.
Or, like,
that's
the
acetaminophen.
endings of different, see? When he talks about these meds, I'm like, my brain cannot process.
Pharmacists are just legal drug dealers.
Facts.
I mean, you're not wrong. We just get authorization to, like, take the drug and here you go.